Ladies and gentlemen, it's the appointed time, and I want to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust, and we have several items on the agenda. We'll try to get through those as quickly as possible because we only have the hall till 3 o'clock. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes, and they have been distributed to the trustees in advance. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes that have been distributed?
No, but would like to move approval.
A motion to move approval.
I'll second.
A motion made second. Please cast your votes. And the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the claims that we've had to ratify the claims. And they were in your packet. Most of these are TIF 8. There are some gold dollars being expended. Kathy, would you like to say anything about the gold dollars?
There's a few rather relatively routine items from the gold fund. The first one is a payment to the Economic Development Foundation to process strategic investment program applications for the last quarter. But we do have a couple of payments. One is to Energex for their downtown parking reimbursement. If you remember, we entered into an agreement to reimburse them for their downtown parking expenses for their move to Leadership Square. There's a routine payment to the Alliance for our monthly services, and then an SIP contract payment to AirInc. So those are the AirInc and Energex are the two that are a little bit unusual.
Kathy, on the Energex payment for parking, is that figure represent an annual amount or a monthly amount or the total amount?
Let's let Brent answer that.
That is a 6-month amount.
6 months.
Yes, sir.
And how many more like that might we expect?
I would expect probably 2 more. The maximum of the contract is $480,000, I believe. Is that right? Yes. So I would expect another 6. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they did reach they had 350 jobs, okay. So that qualified for that.
Are there any other questions on the?
I do, Mr. Chairman. There's 3 claims to the Office of Streetscape and Improvements. Is that an architectural firm or engineering service?
The Office of James Burnett was the designer for the downtown streetscape projects and for the Myriad Gardens. So there's payments to that firm for that work.
Okay.
It's unusual, but that's the firm's name. Are there any other comments or questions on the ratification of payments? Chair would entertain a motion to ratify.
I'll move.
Motion made and second to ratify the expenses. Please cast your votes, and the expenses are taken care of. Thank you very much. Item 4A is going to be deferred until our next meeting, which is the 26th. And there are some procedural issues, nothing significant as far as dollars are concerned, but how it was being processed. So we had to change that slightly. The next item, item 4A, is a concurrence with Oklahoma City in accepting project DC 240A drainage improvements at I-40 and Council Road. And this is, I think, in conjunction with the Outlet Mall project. Are there any questions on this particular project? This was a final claim, and I think it had to do with the change they made in the boring underneath the highway. So.
No questions, but would like to move approval.
Move approval. Okay, motion made and second. Please cast your votes. And item 4B is approved. Thank you very much. Item 4C is a joint resolution with the City of Oklahoma City authorizing, directing the Oklahoma City Economic Trust General Manager and or his designee to negotiate an economic development agreement for subsequent trust and City Council consideration with PAYCOM. Kathy, would you like to say a few words about this? There was a big write-up in the paper about it, so it's like a accomplished fact. So.
Yeah. As you probably saw in the paper today, the item before you is an item to authorize the general manager to negotiate with PAYCOM for another strategic investment program allocation. They plan to add an additional 667 jobs, and we have Craig Bolt with PAYCOM here this afternoon to make a brief presentation about their project.
Good. Greg, thank you very much. I will remind you this was in the paper, so you has.
Okay. Chairman Ryan and trustee of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. My name is Craig Bolte. I am the Chief Financial Officer of Paycom Payroll. I'd like to thank you for the past support of the Economic Development Trust and consideration of the new economic incentives. What I'd like to do is just give a brief history of the company and an update since we were here last back in 2010. The company was founded in 1998 by Chad Richardson. He's currently still the CEO and chairman of the board of Paycom. When he formed the company, we basically were a payroll company, and we performed payroll services for companies around Oklahoma City and surrounding communities. We really transformed the company into a full-service HR and payroll company. We can take an employee from what we call cradle to grave or their entire life cycle with the company. We have an applicant tracking system where you can screen applicants, follow them through the hiring process. Once they're hired, we can run background checks on those applicants. We can also then, if an employer decides to hire that employee, then we can check them for any sort of tax credits, WOTC or empowerment zone type credits. We'll then run payroll for that employee during the time that they're with the company. And once they leave, we're able to do COBRA administration. So we've really transformed our company to where we can take the employee from the start to finish with them. We currently have about 10,000 clients. We process for employers in all states, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Our corporate headquarters are out on the Kilpatrick Turnpike, and then we also have a processing center in Louisville, Texas. We currently employ about 600 employees, 400 of which are in Oklahoma City. Since we were here last time in 2010, we've added about 10 new products, and we've opened 12 new sales offices. This is our current map of our current locations in the years that we opened each one of these sales offices. Like you can see, Oklahoma City and the Dallas, Louisville area where we actually process the payroll. This is what I'm most proud of. Currently, we have people in Miami and Tampa clocking into our system and employers there that are paying their employees. We're doing it for people in New York and in Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. So we're really nationwide right now, and we're continuing to open between 3 and 6 sales offices a year, all of which are processed in Oklahoma City. We draft those tax monies, and it's held in banks in Oklahoma City, and then we make the payments to the, we'll hold that from anywhere from a few days to several months, and then we'll make those payments to the federal and state taxing authorities. This is a picture of our current location, and then this is an artist rendering of a second building. We're looking at an 80,000 square foot building that would attach to our current location. The original incentive plan was entered into in 2010, and it was an upfront payment for $1.9 million for the design and construction of certain public infrastructure, basically sewer and water to come up to the corporate building. We were going to create 492 jobs over a 5-year period, and the average salary was going to be around $36,000. Through December of last year, we've added 186 positions, and the average wage is about $6,000 more than projected at about $42,000. So currently, we're about halfway through with the original economic incentive. We've paid off around $1 million of the $1.9 million. The Phase 2 timing, what we've run up against is our current location will be at max capacity around July of 2014. We looked at where we wanted to expand, whether we would expand in Oklahoma City or our Louisville locations, and we really weighed the benefits of both and considered several different factors and decided that based on the support from the Economic Development Trust for the previous expansion and their consideration of this one that we would expand in Oklahoma City. We're planning on breaking ground on the new building no later than April 1st of this year with a completion date of approximately August of 2014. The requested incentive plan is for 667 positions and an average first-year wage of $38,000. As part of the capital commitment on that expansion, the new building would cost around $10.8 million, and we'll put at least $1 million worth of computer equipment and servers and those type of things. Any questions or?
Questions, Ms. Trustee?
Craig, a couple. The 667 is incremental to the original agreement of 492?
That is correct. So
Okay.
that would only go into effect once the original 492 were hired, and then we complete that part of the pack.
Okay. And a second question, what is your smallest customer and what is your largest customer? Not naming them, but number of employees.
We have customers that have only one employee, and our largest would be probably somewhere around 6,000. And a lot of our customers are names that you guys would know. You use our products, you listen to their headphones or drive their cars. So it's really exciting on who we've been able to get as customers, and it's a testament to our product and to the client service that we perform. You know, we have one-on-one client service. If you call, you're going to get someone on the phone that you've talked to before, and it's assigned to you.
Thank you.
Larry?
A question for Kathy, if I could. The new incentive package for the 667 employees, it will have the normal
Pay for performance,
Okay.
paid after the jobs are created. It's different than the first package because it isn't to support infrastructure improvements. It'll be more like the standard agreements we enter into with other companies.
And just so people know, that what we're doing today is we're giving you all the approval to go ahead and negotiate the particulars of this particular agreement.
Right, and based upon the number of jobs and the wages that they would pay, they would qualify for a $1,250,000 incentive under our, basic program.
Are there other questions? When do you expect to have the 667 jobs on board?
We think that we'll start hiring those in 2014. That's when the other one will run out, somewhere between end of 2014, beginning of 15.
Are there any questions?
That's our plan.
Any comments?
I do have additional questions. First, thank you for the strong presence and the willing to expand. Appreciate that greatly. What other economic incentives does Paycom pursue with this expansion beyond the city?
We're obviously going after the quality jobs on those jobs as well. So those are the main incentives that we're going after. And obviously there's some hiring incentives in some of the states we're in, but those are, on a much smaller scale.
I guess a general question, how important was our program to your decision to locate here?
It's very important.
Thank you.
Our Louisville office is owned by a couple of the owners of our company as well, so there's obviously a strong, there's an incentive for us to move to the Louisville office as well, so we've kind of got that. This is definitely one of the a huge incentive for us to move to or stay
Your
in
building
Oklahoma
out
City.
there is a real addition to Oklahoma City.
It looks nice.
Fine
Very
building,
nice.
it really is.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? So we're going to take a motion to approve the negotiation of the contract.
Move to approve. Second.
Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Good luck on your project. Item D is next. It's a joint economic development agreement with the City of Oklahoma City and Quail Springs Anchor Acquisitions, LLC for the Von Moore Retail Facility Development Project. Kathy, would you like to say something about this?
Yes.
It's a little different.
If you remember, we did a presentation to the trust a couple of weeks ago about this project. We've been working with General Growth Properties that owns Quail Springs Mall to negotiate with them for the acquisition of a new anchor for Quail Springs. The Sears store at Quail Springs has closed, and they are interested in trying to attract a new-to-market upscale retailer for the location. The retailer is Von Maur, and if you remember, we have hired a retail consultant to verify General Growth's sales projections. They projected that the sales for the Von Maur store would be about $45 million a year compared to $21 million for the Sears store. The agreement before you today is to provide a maximum of $2 million in sales tax rebate incentives to General Growth. It's based upon a minimum of $27.5 million in sales in the first year, and that ramps up to $30 million, and it has an annual cap of $225,000 in year one, going to $275,000 in the final year. We'll be glad to answer any questions. I would like to point out that this is in accordance with the retail policy that's been adopted by the trust and by the city council. This is a new-to-market retailer. It serves a regional market, and we believe it's important to the continued success and growth at Quail Springs Mall. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions from trustees?
Doug Adams with General Growth is here. If you have any questions of him, he'll be glad to come up. And I think we have the manager from Quail Springs here as well.
Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Larry.
Just so our viewers understand it in detail, Kathy, if for some reason the first year the sales do not generate $27.5 million, then that 0.5% does not apply.
Right.
And then every year after that, should they not hit the $30 million, it does not apply.
That's correct.
And there's no, if they miss a year, that year is gone.
Yes, they can try to make it up in the 10-year period.
Okay.
But-
And then at the end of 10 years, the sales tax rebate ceases.
That's right.
And all payments are made after the sales have been accomplished.
Verified, yes.
Verified. Thank you, ma'am.
Other questions? Yeah, Jim?
I did, thank you. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Adams. I think when you presented previously, I'd asked you a question about some of the recent openings, Overland Park, Louisville, other locations that I recall from the presentation. You were, I think, going to inquire as to whether there were incentives locally that helped that occur.
Yeah.
Can you update us?
I provided some information. For instance, in Coralville, they provided a minimum of $11 million in subsidy for that Von Maur. By some accounts, the total package may have been $16 million. The mall, Lake St. Louis, was also provided. The town built a 2-story structured parking garage. The exact amount, but it was probably $6-7 million by our estimate, but the exact figure of the value is not sure. There are other cases as well, more where it was tied to a whole project like Brookfield, where they provided $37.5 million for a Von Maur anchored center, but it's a little hard to parse out exactly how much was attributed to that building, but it was certainly as a result of the Von Maur anchor that they did that. So those are 3 cases, and there's a number of others for Von Maur as well, also Shields and other retailers. So. And I did provide a memo with some of that information.
All right, thank you for that follow-up. Very much appreciate it. Also wanted to say a word of thanks to your company for continuing to keep that location on what I think is an upward trajectory. I think that's really important for everyone else that's already doing business with you there, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded. Please cast your votes. And the item carries. It's approved. Thank you very much. Kathy, the next item is dealing with our contract, the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust contract with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation for the second quarter. They're going to make a presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
Kurt Foreman with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce is here to make their second quarter quarterly report to you.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be with you today, and it's good to see that Oklahomans don't care about the snow. They're all here, and that's great. It looks pretty out there. I had to walk 2 blocks, so it wasn't a big deal. But we're glad to be with you today, and thank you for your support of projects that we've been working with you on, like PAYCOM and the work at Quail Springs. We appreciate the opportunity to do that. The report in front of you is one of our quarterly reports. It's for the second quarter, so it was for the second half of our fiscal year with you, the last quarter of the calendar year. And it really tells the story that we experienced, which was while our economy here is doing quite well, the activity from outside the market has been extremely quiet. And I think I attribute a lot of that to the very significant amount of attention that the federal election process took. That's not a D or an R comment. It's just businesses were pausing, in many cases not stopping their projects, but were pausing to watch what was going to happen, so they knew that information to
factor into their decision-making. And probably in my whole career, this particular cycle was among the most, had the most impact on that process of any that I've experienced in my career. So we saw a downturn in inquiries from outside the market, but the good news is as we engaged existing employers here in the region, we were very pleased to hear over and over and over again the optimism of regional employers who see this as not only a great place to do business, but want to and we're looking for opportunities to expand. So the majority of the growth mentioned in here is from our own employers, and oftentimes the paper likes to talk about the new things going on, and that is great. We're always excited for that. The story of the small employers or the mid-size or other employers that are adding jobs regularly is not always a headline grabber, but in fact, it's key to our growth here in the market. You'll also see in there a number of mentions of our different marketing initiatives, whether we're on the road being evangelists for the city and the region, at key trade shows with consultants. There's a list of many of them there. Also, two of our programs that you all support won national awards from our International Economic Development Organization. One was for our business retention and expansion program that we do on your behalf, and the other was for our real estate database, which continues to be a great tool for both local companies who are trying to get started in evaluating or assessing the part of the market. We've even found some of our smaller retail and district level, some of the special districts like the Paseo or the Plaza District or wherever are starting to work with Jessica and our team on doing demographic reports and analysis of their particular parts of the city so they can continue to think of how do they evolve as a district. How do they serve the customers that are within their area? So it's become a really exciting tool, both for very small, maybe one-person shops, as well as the large companies that may be doing analysis on our market. So we're very proud of that, and that comes from your support and investment in us. We are now about to be fully staffed in our business retention and expansion effort. Our new business development person for retention and expansion will be here in about a week and a half. So the numbers in here for the second quarter, we're on pace to hit our goals for you, but that was with really half a team. So with a full team, we fully expect to not only hit our targets, but exceed them in engaging existing employers. The other encouraging news that you'll have more data on next time we talk about a quarterly report is that our numbers have begun to pick up again in terms of inquiries and leads. We believe that now that the election cycle is passed, while we're still dealing with sequestration and some of those challenges, companies are beginning to incorporate that data and begin to move forward. So we expect that you'll see continued inquiries for the SIP and other things as the year goes on. I guess I'll stop there, and if there's any particular aspects of what we do for you that you're interested in knowing a little bit more about, I'd be happy to answer those.
Are there questions from the trustees? Yeah, Larry.
Yeah, and you may or may not, and what I've heard may or may not be true, so I'm just going to try to throw out a general question.
Not a problem.
Is there going to the ICSC Hispanic thing, you mentioned, and here it says you're coordinating ICSC Hispanic Markets local program in Oklahoma City for this first quarter. Does that have anything to do with Crossroads and what's going on out there?
Well, and I can have Jessica come up if you have more detailed questions, but that is probably an example of where our communities become a leader in thinking about retail for the ethnic components of our population, like the Hispanic market. Jessica, who joined us back in August, is a part of a leadership team nationally around that segment, and is part of a team that's helping to develop strategies that many communities can use, and we're seeing the benefit of having Jessica on our team, and they are working on an event for here, but that's more of I think a promotional event. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
That's part of an initiative that ICSC fueled about 2 years ago. They started that initiative, and they've gone to different cities nationwide to really give an update, more so to the real estate brokers, developers, and retailers, to really let them know what the customer looks like in terms of, their shopping patterns, their consumption patterns, because of their purchasing power, a lot of the real estate community doesn't know how to tailor most of the real estate opportunities that exist to serve this market, or just better be able to recruit other retailers that are particularly grocers that have always been in shopping centers that are predominantly Hispanic oriented, to give them an opportunity to be more of a national expansion. But the program that we're doing here in Oklahoma City is March 27th, and that's it's going to give you a general overview of what the Hispanic market looks like, and then we're going to talk about the growth of the Hispanic market here in Oklahoma City, but we're not going to talk about the Crossroads Mall project there. It's a general overview, and that'll give more of an opportunity to start that conversation.
Yeah.
Jessica, typically, who would attend that seminar?
Marketing, advertisers, retailers, particularly the real estate, those that are looking for additional expansion opportunities, developers, brokers. It's really tailored to anyone who wants to tap in. We've had a number of banks, for example, that want to tap into the Hispanic market, but they're not sure, how to go about it or what to do in terms of, their merchandise or store formats or anything like that. So it's really geared to those who are wanting more information about the Hispanic market.
So would those attendees be from the Oklahoma City area, or would they be further footprint?
We've sent out a save the date to those ICSC members in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. And then locally, we're going to do some distributions out to the commercial real estate councils, and if there's anyone that you all would be interested in having them attend, it's really for members and non-members of ICSC.
Valerie?
Is the Hispanic Chamber here involved with you in the planning of this?
Yes, I've been coordinating with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and they'll be there as well. They usually do, from my understanding, similar events every year. I believe they're going to do a program in May, but typically the ICSC initiative is more retail real estate oriented, so they'll serve a part of that, and the Census Bureau usually is invited to attend, so they'll be here as well for this local program, but we are working closely with the Hispanic Chamber.
Other questions? Chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. The motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes, and the report is received.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kurt. The next item is another report.
Yes, we have a quarterly report from the Oklahoma City Technology Business Launch Initiative from I2E, and Scott Meacham is here, who's the new President, Executive Director of I2E.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Scott.
Good afternoon. This is, as you just heard, my first presentation. Maybe it's yours, Trustee Pickens, also to hear. But I will start by saying it's good to see my friend Commissioner Roth here. And I was struck while I was sitting back there, Commissioner, the fact that we've now worked together on 3 levels of government, state, county, and city, and if you can figure out a way to get in federal government, I look forward to working with you in federal government, too.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Anyway, so I'm going to give you the update on kind of where we are and where we're headed and what we've been doing. Again, just to kind of remind you of what the services that we provide at I2E. It's a waterfront of services. What I like to tell people, the simplest way to kind of capture what we do is there are a lot of seeds of business opportunity in Oklahoma that come out of garages. You'll hear about one that come out of a basement here in a little bit. Garages, basements, research institutions, all kinds of places. If somebody doesn't cultivate those seeds into business opportunities, what happens is the seeds either wither and die and become nothing, or those evil birds from other states come and pick our seeds up and plant them in their states, and we don't want that. So what I2E does is helps plant those new sapling companies and grow them in Oklahoma. A couple of our programs that are focused on the OKC launch is the Executive in Residence Services and our Entrepreneur in Residence Training Services. We also have a broader scope, but these are just 2 that that I'm going to be talking about just a little bit more here in a minute. And let me go over our statistics from the quarter. And by the way, you just heard from the chamber how bad the fourth quarter of last year was from a sort of an economic development and job attraction standpoint. You can imagine how bad a quarter it was in our space where we live, where the capital is even riskier. And so what happened is we had this very hotly contested election going on, and then as soon as the election was over, we had this monster called a fiscal cliff that Congress was dangling over our heads. And so as you can imagine, capital investment was very much chilled in the fourth quarter. A national angel group reported a 31% decline in deal volume just in the fourth quarter. And again, I think most people attribute that to the political uncertainty more than the economic environment that we're currently in. And you can see that in our numbers. If you see, the companies that we were able to present deals to, was not as robust as we'd like. In fact, we're seeing a lot more this quarter, and I think next numbers are going to be a lot better. The two of the programs I want to highlight, though, are the Entrepreneur in Residence and the Executive in Residence services. We have a big event planned next week. We're bringing in 4 nationally recognized experts to meet one-on-one with companies that we are providing mentoring services for so they can assist them, and then they're going to have meet with our Oklahoma City Seed Step Angel group after that. So we're kind of doubling up and getting maximum bang for our buck out of that group. And so you'll see those numbers also going up. What I'm personally working on is our very top number is our Executive in Residence. And I think there's 2 issues that are going on there. Number one is on our sales Executive in Residence services, we partnered with an outside company called First Call on that. And really, we have not done as good a job as we should have, I believe, in integrating them into our service model. I just rolled out this week a new methodology that we're going to use. It's actually going to bring them into every one of our clients and every one of our cases. So you should see dramatic improvement in those numbers, hopefully by next quarter, but certainly over the next couple of quarters. Our CFO in Residence problem with that is, unfortunately, CFOs are in great demand in the economy, and our CFO in Residence person just got picked off. We're working real diligently to replace that person. I have an interview, in fact, right after this meeting with a very promising prospect, so hopefully we can get that person plugged back in so we can move those numbers up also. But by and large, we're very pleased with, for example, the growth in our angel network, the number of deals that we're showing them, and the dollars amount of deals that we've closed. Again, last quarter wasn't good, but if you look at the aggregate numbers, we've had almost $1 million or $750,000 invested by Oklahoma City angel investors in deals. And as you can see, we've shown them quite a few deals, and we're queuing up more and more all the time. One of my big goals at I2E is to, 1, broaden our scope and the amount of things we're looking at, but 2, increase the number of deals that we're seeing through the organization. And we have numerous initiatives that we're working on to do that currently. And I want to start off by giving you a highlight on this quarter, a company we're working with called
My name is Rob
EasyVein.
Perry. My company is Innovative Solutions, and the medical device is the EasyVein. It's a very difficult process to insert an IV catheter, particularly in an emergency setting where someone may be dehydrated or bleeding and they have difficulty getting the vein to rise. The EasyVein is a device that improves the ability of emergency personnel to access a venous catheter in a patient. It happens all the time in hospitals where you'll be called to a patient's room and the nurses tried to stick 3 times, they get another nurse, and then they get their charge nurse, and then they call the ICU, and they bring an ultrasound, and then eventually, if they can't get it, they'll have to put a central line in the patient or something else just to be able to get venous access. And so it's surprisingly a very big problem in today's medicine. I went to medical school at the University of Oklahoma, and while I was there, I noticed there were a lot of problems in medicine that unfortunately were often overlooked. It's not that there weren't solutions to them, but I never felt that some of those solutions were very good. I'm just one of those kinds of people that are always very interested in how things work, and when things don't work well, why. When I initially was working on an IV catheter, it occurred to me that it wasn't the amount of blood that was the problem, it was the location. Because if you could redirect blood from where you didn't need it and put it into the superficial veins that you did need it in, then then you could improve venous access for anyone. We're focusing on the emergency market, as in ambulances and emergency rooms. And once we get our feedback and make sure it fulfills their strict requirements, then we'll be expanding into the general hospital setting, also into nursing homes, outpatient surgery centers, anywhere someone might need an IV catheter.
We're very excited about this company. This young man is, the picture you saw was actually his basement. If you noticed all the tools and things, he literally invented this device in his basement here in Oklahoma City. He is I believe he's in the residency program in family medicine at the OU Health Sciences Center, but he also does rotations in the emergency room. And he came up for the need for this when what he was seeing going on in the emergency room. So it's a very practical device. We're really excited about it. We think it has a very broad market appeal. He mentioned his initial strategy is to go to emergency rooms and work out from there, because kind of that's where his expertise is. But these are the kinds of things that we're working on. This particular one, again, that was Dr. Rob Perry that you saw. It's already received FDA approval as a Class 1 medical device, which is critically important whenever you're doing medical devices. We're getting ready to start the 6-month clinical trial in partnership with Oklahoma EMS, and they are currently pursuing a $500,000 plus investment round that we will lead. It's kind of interesting because, again, notice that he received both the CFO in residence, the sales executive in residence, and the entrepreneur in residence training services. So these are the kinds of people that we are providing the services to that we're talking about. We also like the fact that, a little plug to the Governor's Cup that we do, competition we do, is we found that out of our Governor's Cup competition, our hope was that would spur entrepreneurship in Oklahoma. And this is really an example of how it has, because he was a participant in our competition and then went on and took that to some real-world applications. What we're looking at, and again, 3 to 5 year time range, is 30 to 40 new jobs, $2 to $3 million in total equity investment, and $25 to $35 million in total revenues. Current status is he's filed his patent in 2012, so he has a patent pending. He's on a completed 3rd generation prototype. We got a little bit of feedback from the market that they wanted something looking a little cooler, so he's kind of coming up with a little cooler packaging to do this in. He's already executed his manufacturing agreements, and our targeted commercial launch is in the 4th quarter of 2013. So again, with your help and with the help of the rest of our partners, these are the types of companies that we're really trying to make a difference on. We know statistically that if we can give the companies these kinds of services, we can more than double their chances of success. And that's based on studies from the U.S. Small Business Administration as well as the Harvard Business School. And so we know if you put some money, some capital in, and you put in some services and helping them, train them on how to succeed in business, that you can more than double your chances for success. I will point out that I think our initial program was maybe a 2-year program. Our expiration is coming up the end of June. Because of ramp-up time, we're actually going to have money left at the end of the program, and so we have sent a letter to you all and the other partners asking for a 1-year extension in this program. It won't cost you any more money. We're just going to, use the money that we have for another year, and I believe you'll probably take that up at some later meeting. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions about I2E or the OKC launch initiative.
Wow, we can extend it.
I do have. Always great to see you. Really am a fan of what you all do there. Just a question, I guess, in hearing you talk about that exciting development with manufacturing agreements already executed. Is there any effort underway or possible to make sure that that type of manufacturing can happen locally as well?
Absolutely. We always do that. I mean, our goal is always to plant the manufacturing. Of course, here in this one, we're in Oklahoma City, close to the guy that is sort of the father of it. But absolutely, we always try to do that. Now, sometimes, you might not have that capability here, so we'll go, wherever we can get the services. But always we prefer local vendors and try to plug as much local in because, we're funded to grow jobs in Oklahoma. That is our purpose, our mission from the state, and that's also the mission with our partnership with you all. So that is our focus.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great report. We've received a report.
So move.
A motion made and seconded to receive the report. Any further discussion? Cast your votes, and the report is received. Are there any comments from the trustees? Comments from staff? Comments from the public? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.